Hey, Coach, I wanted to ask you about your offensive line, I guess specifically your interior guys, because at your guard spots, they're different. It's different personnel than last year, right? So I'm just curious with those guys being bigger and fairly athletic for that size. From what you've seen in fall camp, are you encouraged slash optimistic about the push in the run game those guys are able to provide?
I am. I think we've got the guys all really in their best positions. I think a guy like Jalen Rivers is a big athletic body. I know he's young, so there's going to be a learning curve, but he has been here and been in our system for a year, been in our offseason program, and he's earned that opportunity. I think having Vaughn back, he's a big guy with a lot of starts, and for as big as he is, he's athletic. That also allows DJ to play some tackle, which I think we felt like after going through last year, that's probably his most natural position. So hopefully it helps us get guys in the right seats. And looking back last year in our run game, that's where we struggled a little bit, was more internally. And so hopefully that can help us there for sure moving forward.
Coach, we've got Manny Navarro from The Athletic. Manny, go ahead.
Right. Obviously, we heard all about how good Elijah Arroyo was, before he ever got to Miami. Then, of course, we didn't get a chance to see him in the spring, but he's number 2 on the depth chart. I'm curious. I know you loved running those 2 tight end sets. Do you feel comfortable, week 1, throwing Elijah out there and having him run part of those 2 tight end sets? And can you just talk a little bit about where he's at from a development standpoint?
Yeah, it's a great question. Definitely. I think Elijah Arroyo's earned the opportunity to be in that number 2 spot with what he's done this fall camp. It was unfortunate he didn't get to go through the spring, but still he's done more than enough to earn that opportunity. He is still just a freshman, a true freshman. So like all those guys, you may see some growing pains at certain things, but we got a lot of confidence Emory wouldn't be there, and definitely got a lot of confidence to put 2 guys on the field at the same time as well.
Coach, we've got Cal Friedman from WVUM. Cal, go ahead.
Coach, I wanted to ask about Keyshawn Smith. This is someone that didn't have a whole ton of reps last season, but has seen himself projected into the number 2 receiver on the depth chart. What has he shown this offseason that's made you excited about him?
Well, I think, those top 6 guys that are listed in the 2 deep, we kind of look at them all as like co-starters right now. And I really mean that. Like you take a guy like Mike Harley, who proved himself last year, but Xavier Restrepo has proven himself to be a starter quality too. And so, a guy like Keyshawn, he can run. He's growing. He's developing. There's going to be some growing pains with him too, but he's earned the opportunity, as is Mike Redding. And so, like I said, I think you'll see all 6 of those guys you're going to see in game 1. Because, we hope to run enough snaps. So we got to keep guys fresh, but those guys have earned the opportunity. I know Coach Diaz probably told you, this is the week 1 depth chart. Who knows what it'll look like in week 3 or 4. But the guys that have earned the opportunity to be where they are right now are going to get that opportunity. Like I've said all along, until we go do stuff in games, it's all projection. We got to go out and prove what we can do when it matters.
Thank you.
Coach, we've got Chris Stock from InsideTheU. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, going back to tight end with Will Mallory, just the elevated role, what you've seen from him. He spoke last week, obviously excited about this role he's in and the catch and run ability that we've heard and seen throughout his career. Just your thoughts on Will going into the whole season here.
I got a lot of confidence in Will. It's funny, and I totally understand why the narrative is what it is, but I don't look at Will being any different this year than he was last year. I think last year we had Will and Brevin. Of course, they were both beat up throughout the season, and so they kind of shared all the catches. But Will was a starter last year. Now it's Will, and now he's got Elijah, a young guy to bring along with him. So we got a lot of confidence in Will. I think he's a really good football player, and it's just from my standpoint, I feel just like I did a year ago. I got all the faith in the world and Will, and look forward to him having a great season.
Coach, next we'll go to Kobe Price from the South Florida Sun Sentinel. Kobe, go ahead.
Hey, Rhett. Main guy we noticed that wasn't on the depth chart for Alabama was Mark Pope. I was wondering, what does he need to show, whether it's this week or the following weeks, to jump back into the 2 deep with the wide receivers?
It's a good question. Mark's had a fantastic attitude and done a lot of good things in fall camp. We moved him into the slot position. We feel like that's the most natural position for him, and he's really proven that to be the case. He's really made some good plays and some good strides. I think sometimes when you have a guy play on the outside all year and then you move him into the slot, it takes some time to learn a new spot. And when you got guys like Harley and X who have already been there a year, they're probably just a little ahead in that regard. But we still have a lot of confidence in Mark. If the opportunity presents itself for him to get in there, we think he can make plays there.
Coach, we've got Gary Furman from Cane Sport. Gary.
Hey, Rhett, how are you?
Hey.
Obviously, a lot of hype going into this game about Alabama bringing back what people expect to be the number one defense in the country. But when you go back and look at their national championship run last year, teams that had good offensive football teams were able to have some success and move the ball against them. What did you see when you went back and looked at last season? And then the second question I had was, how big of a difference is it for you going into year two with the same system, the same quarterback, the same basic core group of athletes in the offense? And how big of a difference is that making out on the practice field, just in the efficiency of the offense?
Yeah, I think the first thing I noticed when you go back and look at that Alabama defense last year is they were still pretty stinking good. I mean, I think they gave up 19 points a game. I think they held 8 of their opponents under 20. That's pretty good. And they played a lot of really good offenses. They held under 20 or around 24 points, including the national championship game. I do know, the Ole Miss game, the Florida game, the way those games went, they were able to put some points up. And what I noticed is nobody was open. They made a lot of one-on-one contested catches. And, both Ole Miss and Florida, I think would probably tell you they played lights out and made a lot of plays to get those opportunities. But, there's not much easy that's going to be out there. And in both those cases, those teams still lost the game. So with regard to having De'Eric back, I think was the second part of your question. And, anytime you have a guy coming back in year two, especially with some guys in the offense surrounding him, you expect it to be a little bit smoother. And it is. Just the communication, the expectation. Unfortunately for De'Eric, he didn't go through spring, which I know when he initially decided to come back was a big thing he was looking forward to. But it's funny, this is only I think this is only the second time in my career I've had the same quarterback the second year. And I know it's the first time in De'Eric's career that he's had the same offense and the same coordinator in the second year. That's one of the big reasons he came back. So, but I have noticed our guys, there's just a different kind of level of confidence around the whole unit, just because they know what to expect. They believe in what we're doing. And so I think that from that standpoint, it helps us be maybe a step ahead where we were this time last year.
Coach, we've got a few more for you. We're going to go to Michael Casagrande from AL.com. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Rhett, you've seen several Alabama defenses over the years and your different stops. Have you seen them evolved? How different are they from 2013 when you saw them at Auburn?
Man, I have. I've seen a lot of really good ones. And it was funny. We were talking as a staff last week, and I've gone against some really good ones. And this one, I think the difference, the question earlier, of what they were a year ago and this year, which they were still one of the best a year ago, is they were a lot of young guys playing a year ago that are all back now. So now they've gone from an inexperienced group a year ago, one of those games that was referenced was week 3 last year, to now they're a veteran bunch with a lot of starts. This is one of the best units they've had, top to bottom. There's just not any weaknesses. I'd say one of the things they have now that they didn't have in the past is they have 2 elite edge pass rushers. Will Anderson, number 31, he's as good as they come. Number 4 on the other side too. And in the past, they had really good run stopping D linemen. They had a lot of great pressures to get their pressure. They still have the run stopping D linemen. They can still have the great pressures, but they don't have to, because those 2 guys can really drastically affect the game. I don't know if there's a better pass rusher one-on-one than number 31 in the entire country. They got the best linebacking core in the country, and their whole secondary, with the exception of one guy, is back in experience. So they are really, really solid top to bottom. They can stop the run. They can get after the passer without having to pressure a lot of guys. They take all the air out of the coverage. They don't give anything easy. They're a complete unit, and there's a reason everybody's considering them to be the best defense in the country going into the season. Unfortunately, I've seen it before. They usually have a defense just like this.
Coach, we've got Tom D'Angelo from the Palm Beach Post. Tom, go ahead.
Hey, Rhett, you were offensive coordinator against them 4 times at Auburn, I believe 4 times. Your most success came the first 2 years offensively. And with Nick Marshall as a quarterback, a guy who can beat you with his legs, beat you with his arm. I think the first of 13, he really had a good game running. 14th, he had a great game passing. Is that the type of quarterback you need to beat him? And you have that guy now.
Yeah, we do. We hope he's, it's going to be his first game back since his injury. So we're all signs point that he's in great shape. But, what an opponent to kind of come back against. But, yeah, to your point, if you look at the history, not many people give him trouble, but the people that have had a quarterback, with the exception of probably LSU and Joe Burrow a few years ago, typically they have a quarterback that can also hurt you with his feet. And, we had that with Nick Marshall when we beat him in 2013, and we lost to him in 14, but had a good offensive night. Nick was a big part of that. And that was the difference between 13 and 14 and probably the 15 and 16 seasons when we played him, is we just had a different guy at quarterback those years. And I'm really excited we got Derek King going into this game. I can tell you that, but the challenge is still pretty great.
Coach, we got two more for you. We're going to start with David Wilson from the Miami Herald. David, go ahead.
Hey, Rhett. I wanted to ask about the freshman wide receivers, who obviously we talked about a lot throughout camp. Obviously not on that too deep depth chart yet. Just how close are those guys? And obviously they're freshmen. It's going to be constant growth. Just what are kind of the areas? And I'm sure it might be different for all three of them, but where are you still kind of looking for them to get better to maybe crack that depth chart later on in the season?
Yeah, I think they've all had a really good fall camp. They've all flashed the ability we thought they had, and now we know they have. And we feel great about all three of those guys. I think at the end of the day, they're 15 to 20 practices into their college career. And so it's not just as simple as running a route and catching the ball, being able to get lined up, being able to get off press coverage, off coverage, know the whole playbook, all those things. I think there's just still a maturation process that has to occur. They're competing, they're pushing for that opportunity, and that won't stop now that the season started. So I think, we've said this is just the week one depth chart, but the guys that are out there right now have earned the right to be out there, but those guys, there's no negatives. We feel really great about their bright future.
Coach, last but not least, we have Susan Miller-Degnan from the Miami Herald. Susan, go ahead.
Brett, talking about the quarterbacks, the backups with the "or" in between their names, how close were they? Obviously they were close in fall camp. And what were some of the differences that you discerned with each? And obviously Tyler, he didn't play very much last year, but he does have an extra year with the offense. Can you speak about that subject?
Yeah. Hey, Susan. Like I've said, I think throughout fall camp, those two guys, they're really close. They both had really good springs. Obviously Tyler does have the year advantage. If you think of a guy like Jake Garcia in the spring, you practice every other day. It's a little bit different intensity level than when you're in fall camp going every day, putting in 16-hour days, back to back to back to back to back. That can start to wear on a guy if you've never been through that, as it does with all freshmen. But I thought both guys had their bright spots in fall camp. I think, it's kind of been a good back and forth. And, there's a reason there's an "or" there, because we have a lot of faith in both of them if they need to be called upon. And, that's kind of how I've kind of talked with both of them. They both got to be prepared to play. They both got to take that mentality that they're one snap away, and also getting into the mode of game week where, they're not going to get a lot of reps, but then be expected to, if they're called upon, to go in there and give us a chance to win. And I suspect it'll be like that most of the year, that both those guys will be very much in the fold there.